Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Tech Showdown. My name is Kevin, this is my co-host Teddy, and today we're going to be checking out a Pascal powered gaming laptop. It's going to be this guy right here. See, MSI GS43VR Phantom Pro 14-inch GTX1060 equipped gaming laptop. So this one will be quite interesting. I'll do a bit of comparison to the GS40 because I've already tested that and I really liked it. So I wanted to see if this one would be better than its predecessor, so it'll be really cool, and we'll do a little bit of a comparison there to that. Now if you just want to know, if this is good or not or anything like that, then click on Teddy right now and that'll take you to the conclusion at the end of the video. But we're going to get into a more in-depth review right now. So let's first talk about the exterior then. So exterior wise, it looks just like the GS40. There's no real change there. It's still got this metal finish, which is a fingerprint magnet, really hard to clean and stuff, but it still looks quite nice. Tried and true, nice aluminium look. I like it. It's still got the nice small form factor, which we all really loved, and it looks sort of like an Ultrabook and a gaming laptop had a baby and this came out. I do quite like it. Now, actual dimensions wise, it's coming in at 345 millimeters long by 245 millimeters wide and 21.8 millimeters thick. So it's still got very small dimensions. That is quite thin, so that's good. And I really like the look of it. It looks solid, looks serious, looks premium, and I really do like it. Now let's talk about I/O then. So if we have a look at the front, you see there's absolutely nothing there. Look around to the left-hand side, you see you have a headphone jack, mic jack, SD card slot, USB 3.0 port where the AC power adapter goes in, and a gigabit Ethernet port. Around the back you see a mini display port, that is DisplayPort 1.2, and on the right-hand side you have an HDMI port, another USB 3.0 slot, and a USB Type-C plus Thunderbolt 3 port. So that's quite good also. Now let's jump into the specs real quick, and I'll highlight some of the key ones there. So the processor is the same one you get in pretty much every gaming laptop these days. It's the Intel i7-6700HQ, so that's a 14 nanometer 4-core 8-thread CPU with a 2.6 gigahertz base clock and a 3.5 gigahertz turbo clock. Now the chipset it's on is the Intel HM170 chipset, and the memory that it runs is 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory at 2133 megahertz. Now GPU wise, it's featuring the NVIDIA GeForce GTX1060 with 6 gigabytes of GDDR5 memory. So the 1060 is not 1060M, it's very, very, very similar to the desktop model. Now storage wise, it's got a 256 gigabyte M.2 SSD and a 1 terabyte 7200 RPM HDD, so that's good. You have the SSD there for a few games in your OS, make it nice and snappy, and the HDD there for all your mass storage needs. Communication wise, it's got a killer N1535 wireless AC and Bluetooth 4.1, and weight wise it's coming in at 1.6 kilograms with the battery in. So that's really like you'll be able to carry this around all day, no worries. And it's also coming with a 2-year MSI warranty. So now let's move on to the screen. And it's actually unchanged from the GS40. It's the same one you got on that. So it's the 14-inch 1080p IPS display. I really love it. The viewing angles are absolutely fantastic, which are quite a good thing for a laptop because oftentimes, you don't want that horizontal color shift or anything like that. And the color reproduction is absolutely fantastic. The 14-inch is a nice size to get used to. Nice size for 1080p. I really do like it. And being IPS, you get a great color. It was good in gaming as well. IPS usually has quite slow response, but this one was just fine. I didn't see any ghosting or anything like that. So that was quite good. Now let's move over to the sound. So that was a big letdown on the GS40, and it's also a letdown here. So it's just got two front-facing 2-watt stereo speakers, which they do go quite loud, but the quality is not that good. So the standard settings are pretty rubbish, so you're going to really want to go into Nahamik and set it up a bit better. They're just, it's just, take it from me, it sounds like you're in an echo chamber. It's just not very good. After some adjustment, it does get better, but it's still nothing fantastic, and it's only okay. So it'll be good enough to get you by. But if you're someone who takes audio seriously, you're definitely going to want to invest in a good pair of gaming headphones or some external speakers or something like that, because these ones are not going to be that good at the end of the day for anything more than basic needs, I'll put it that way. Now let's move on then to the keyboard. So it's the same 10 keyless Steel Series keyboard you got on the GS40, which I thought was fantastic, and it's still fantastic. Really, really nice. Good travel, good feel, good layout, good lighting. No complaints here. It does an awesome job. Going to be great for gaming or typing documents, whatever you need. The touchpad is also the same. It was fantastic, nice size, finger slides easily. I really like it. Stock sensitivity is a little bit on the low side for my taste, but aside from that, does a really solid job. It's going to get you by very, very well. The clicking is also good, and all the gestures worked very, very nicely on it with no issues at all. So this is sort of like the main event. What about the performance then? Since we've been talking about this so much with by comparison to the GS40, is the performance quite bumped up over the GS40? Well, it is. So first we'll talk about the CPU before we talk about the GPU. So for that, I did the Intel Extreme Tune Utility benchmark, and the 6700 HQ scored 926 marks, which is a really, really, really solid score. So that's going to be, you're probably not going to have any sort of CPU bottlenecking problems with this at all. It's going to do a really solid job. Now, as far as the graphics card went, the first test I did was synthetic. It was the Unigine Valley Extreme HD benchmark, and I compared it to the GS40. So this scored 59.2 frames per second average, and the GS40 with its 960M scored 36 frames per second average. So a big jump up there in performance for this GS43VR. It's a really, really good jump up over the previous model. Now I also did a game, so it was Shadow Mordor, and that's at 1080p on the Ultra preset. And this guy scored 102.1 frames per second average, and its predecessor, the GS40, scored 54.2 frames per second average. So another big jump up there in performance for the GS43 VR over the GS40, almost double. That is a really, really, really good performance increase. Some of that will also be drivers, since I tested the GS40 quite a while ago now, but most of it will be that 1060 over the 960M. Now I also wanted to compare it in performance to the desktop 1060 I should say. So I compared it to the Asus Turbo GTX1060 I tested somewhat recently, and that was also obviously in my Broadwell eBase X99 rig. And for this we did the Dirt Rally benchmark. So the GS43 VR and Dirt Rally scored 77.4 frames per second average, and the desktop 1060 in my personal rig scored 82.5 frames per second average. That is really, really solid. That's only 5 FPS less for the gaming laptop than a Turbo 1060 in my desktop. Really, really solid job there. So yeah, very, very impressive, and this should be extremely good for all of your 1080p gaming needs on an Ultra preset with no worries at all. Now let's move over to temperatures and noise. Now if you can remember back to my GS40 review, you'll know that I said temps and noise were its big sort of downside, and it's still a similar affair here. So in my Intel Extreme Tune Utility benchmark, the CPU went up to 85 degrees Celsius. Now it wasn't throttling, but that is still very, very hot. And in the Heaven 4.0 benchmark that I tested with, the GPU went up to 83 degrees Celsius. So that 1060 got quite hot there. So both the CPU and GPU are going up to about the mid-80s, and the laptop itself gets extremely hot. Like if you had this on your lap, it would burn your legs. So you're definitely going to be wanting to game on a hard top or invest in a laptop cooler or something like that, because this does get very hot, albeit they weren't throttling, and this is still using the same cooling setup as the GS40. But yeah, that is quite hot for a gaming laptop. Now, as far as noise goes, yeah, it was pretty noisy too. At idle, when you're just doing casual things, browsing web, it's going to be completely quiet or more or less quiet. You know, very, very little fan noise, so that's really good. However, as soon as you start gaming, it does get very noisy. So that's something you're going to need to keep in mind. It is drown-outable, but it is, you know, pretty high. But as always, I'll let you guys judge for yourself. So this is what it sounds like when you are gaming on the GS43 VR. So yeah, that's pretty damn loud. Yeah, it's going to be a bit too much for some people out there. Personally, after using it, I still think it's okay enough, since you can drown it out with the volume, because these speakers do go quite loud. Maybe that's why they made them go so loud. But yeah, you can also wear a good pair of headphones and that'll do just fine. But yeah, it does get quite noisy, as you could tell. Now let's talk about battery life then. So what was it like battery life wise? So very, very similar to the GS40, maybe a little bit better, but more or less the same. So you're going to get about 3 to 3.5 hours with casual use, browsing web, watching videos, that sort of thing. And when you're gaming, that's going to drop down to like 2 hours or less. So yeah, not the best battery life if you're comparing it to Ultrabooks, but if you're comparing it to other gaming laptops, it's about average. So you're just going to have to judge that for yourself. If you're super conservative, maybe turn the keyboard lighting off and turn the brightness right down. Maybe that'll go up to maybe 5 hours or something like that. But for the majority of users, just think you'll probably get about 3.5 hours of battery life out of this gaming laptop. Let's move over now to software. So as far as operating systems go, it's coming with Windows 10 64-bit like everything does nowadays. And as far as pre-installed software goes, it's coming with MSI Dragon Gaming Center, which I really like. That's super useful. Also MSI True Color, which will allow you to set up that IPS display exactly how you like it. Nahamic, which is God, it's so good that they included that, because the standard audio setup is just horrible, so you're definitely going to want to go in there and set that up, make it way, way better so it's not an echo chamber. System Control Manager is also kind of cool, and SteelSeries Engine for setting up the keyboard, and those are basically the main ones that you're going to want to be using with this gaming laptop. Which brings us now to the conclusion, and what do I make of the MSI GS43VR? So I think it's a good upgrade over the GS40. I mean, the performance bump alone is pretty incredible. Almost doubling the performance of the GS40. So that's a good enough reason, maybe not so much to upgrade unless you're having sort of performance issues with the GS40. But it is a good upgrade over the previous model. So I do really like that. Now, as far as everything else goes, it's still got this nice small form factor and good looks of the GS40, and that's really nice. The same solid IPS 1080p display I have no issues with. A great keyboard and touchpad, but really, really average audio, so that's something to be aware of. It does get very hot, and it does get very loud, so that's something you're going to need to be aware of with that, and that's sort of like the two main cons when it comes to this gaming laptop. It's not just this. Most really small, like thin and light gaming laptops have that same problem, and battery life is pretty much the same, maybe slightly better. So I would say that I really like this laptop. If you have a GS40 currently, I mean, the upgrade wise, you're just going to have to think about it and purely in terms of performance. Otherwise, there's probably no need to upgrade. However, if you're someone looking for a thin, light, and powerful gaming laptop, you're going to be able to play all your games at 1080p on their highest presets with no worries on this gaming laptop. It's that good. So yeah, I would really consider it. And this is a really solid gaming laptop, aside from the fact that it does get quite hot and it does get quite loud. So you're definitely going to be wanting to invest in a laptop cooler if you're thinking about purchasing this gaming laptop. Now, I thank you all for watching this video. Please subscribe to Tech Showdown if you haven't already, and like the video. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.